I certainly don't think he deserves to be put out on parole in July. I'm one of those people who believes he's guilty of the murders. He deserves to be rotting under the damn jail as far as I'm concerned. He deserves what he got, even though this has nothing to do with the double murder he got off on in 1994. This is for burglary and theft and all of that stuff. I don't know how you can get convicted of stealing your own stuff, which I find absolutely hilarious in certain respects. But what I'm annoyed by more than anything, Max, is the fact that you get away with what you got away with, and you don't have the decency to just go away, to fade into oblivion. You snub your nose at the Goldman family and this Ronald Goldman's poor father, who my heart still goes out to this very day. You snub your nose at the system. You snubbed your nose at folks every chance you got, literally laughing in people's face while you gallivanted all over the place, acting like, you didn't give a damn. You didn't act innocent. You acted like somebody who got off and did not care. And the system itself caught up with you like it's known to do. They got Al Capone. You remember, they got him on tax evasion charges, Max. They knew that, they knew he was guilty of something else, but they couldn't get him. But they got him on something. And that's the same thing that's applicable to OJ. He brought it on himself. He was idiotic for not going away, and he deserves what he got. As far as I'm concerned, a few more years in jail would be something that he would deserve, but I suspect that he might actually get off.
I think, as most do, that he was guilty of the original crime for which he was charged and tried. I think he's probably a menace to society and should be acquitted, and best for the rest of us that he is locked up. So I agree with you there, but we are a nation of laws, not men, and we're people. We're a nation of laws, and for him to not be paroled is a miscarriage of justice. It's the imposition of what we want over the outcome that the law gave us, that due process gave us. He was acquitted. And then he was, as OJ made in America, made very clear, he was railroaded, essentially, and given a much, much, much stiffer sentence than anyone would normally get in those circumstances. And to keep him in jail for that, when that is very clear, is a miscarriage of justice. I understand where it's like, well, two wrongs, but what do we say about that? Doesn't make a right. I think, look, this is the way it goes, he was acquitted. We may not like the outcome. I don't think that's a good enough excuse to trump up some charges and railroad him and keep him locked up forever because many wished that he was found guilty originally.
Let me say this. I agree with you, Max. I definitely think that he was railroaded. And if you look at it from strictly the law perspective, I definitely think he was railroaded and he should be out. My point is that when you snub your nose at the system after getting off and you dared them to come at you and you literally provoked them to find something, don't whine and moan once they pull it off. That's what happened here. He got convicted 13 years to the day that he was famously acquitted of the double murder charges. I mean, that is not just irony. That is not just a coincidence. It probably was on purpose. But he did that to himself. And it's almost similar to the whole Roger Clemens thing on a far more innocuous situation. My thing is Roger Clemens, unlike Barry Bonds and others, had the freedom to go on with his life and just chill. Instead, he sat up there and poked his fingers at folks and dared them to subpoena him and dared them to call him up on Capitol Hill and all this. So he invited all of this scrutiny. Then when he got it, he wants to whine and moan about how he's being victimized.
And by
Same
the way,
situation
Stephen
with OJ.
Okay,
and that's what I'm saying.
Okay, so you lock him up for whatever amount of time, but because someone he was with, remember the details, someone he was with said, don't move or stay right there, they turned it into a kidnapping and the whole thing and gave him like 20 years.
Yeah. That's true.
He did deserve to go to jail for what he did. Absolutely. He broke the law and he forcibly tried to take back property, even if he believed it was his.
But the penalty was excessive.
Judicial. However many years that is, 3 years, 5 years, whatever it is. But the rest of his life, essentially, for that, no. For the first crime, yes, but he was acquitted of the first crime.
I also, and let me just be the first to say, you're a black man. Most people in America believe that you murdered two white folks and you got off and you still think you can get away with snubbing your nose at the system, you ain't a fool, you a new fool. And when I talk about bringing stuff on yourself and deserving it, it's heinous and awful and bad enough that you murdered anybody, okay? But then to get off of it, knowing that you are in America, that you are a black man, and you got away with double murder, and then to turn around and still snub your nose at the system, ultimately, it's exactly what the documentary indicated. Before the trial, before the murders, OJ was somebody that did not identify himself with any kind of blackness whatsoever. And this is a perfect example of that, because you forgot who you are and where you were.
Or if you believe he did it, maybe he's not.
I do believe he did it.
Maybe whatever kind of a sociopath you think that makes him, he has enough of a conscience to feel guilty enough to put himself in a situation where eventually he does the time.
Really? You say that he's a sociopath, so he felt guilty, and that's why he put himself in that situation?
Whether or not you feel you want to categorize it as kind of a pathology and that he's a sociopath, maybe, in fact, he does have some kind of a conscience and he feels guilty enough that he did that. I mean, why would anyone do that? You ascribe it to stupidity. Maybe it's guilt.